the THC show, and here's Neil Magnuson.
Hey everybody, how you doing? Sorry for the late start today. Some unforeseen problems in traffic for Glenn on the way in meant that we couldn't start until a little bit later. But we're here now, and we're going to do the show. And welcome to the THC show. I am your host, Neil Magnuson. And on the show today, we'll have 8 out of 10 Glenn, of course, join us for the 420 session and more. We'll talk a little bit about CSP and some of the things going on with that. And we actually have a lot to talk about today, for sure. Oh dear.
Alrighty.
It's going to be like that, is it? Puff, puff, puff. So, I guess what I wanted to open the show with tonight was about choices. You know, we all have some choices in life, and there's things that we really don't have any choice about. We don't have much choice about our physical appearance for the most part. That's to do with genetics. Of course, we can dress any way we want. We can cut our hair different ways. We can even have plastic surgery. But we're born with the face and the body that we're born with, and that's that for that. And there's a lot more as well as that. There's some things you get to choose in life, and others you just don't. Genetically, we are predisposed to a lot of different things, way more than what most people realize what we're predisposed to. A lot of times we think we're making choices just by ourselves, you know, based on our experience. But if you look at the studies of twins and see the choices that they make when they're independent of each other, you see that there's a lot of choices that are driven by genetic predispositions. We kind of are who we are. We get to tweak it along the way. Hopefully we develop and learn and grow into the complete beings that we were destined to be. And destiny is a big part of things. We are destined to do things. We are destined to be certain ways. There's a flow to everybody's life, and the flow is different for everybody. We spend our formative years trying to figure out who we are. There's a saying.
Fine.
You think we're still recording?
Yeah, we're okay.
There's a saying that says, you're not who you are as a child. You're not who you think you are as a child. You're not who other people think you are as a child. You're who you think other people think you are. And that's the behaviors that you conform to some degree. Your environment definitely shapes a fair bit of who you are and where you're going in your life. Some people are born with a silver spoon in their mouth. They got everything. Like good parents, a stable home, secure finances, good friends, and all the things that it takes to have a decent life and to develop into that glorious human flower that the seed of humanity is destined to become. Other people are at quite the other end of the spectrum. They're born disadvantaged. They don't have much of a hope at all of having a decent life. They're born into poverty. They're born with abusive parents. Their life is fraught with trauma. They're just genetically not as capable in a lot of different ways as some other people are. It's just life. What I'm driving at is that for me personally, this path that I'm on was destined to be. I simply followed my heart, did my best to follow my flow, to figure out what it is that I prefer in life and who I am as a human being, and then make choices based on that. I just tried to do the right thing. Doing the right thing is easy when you know what it is and it's easy to do. figuring out what the right thing to do is can be hard. And a lot of times we make mistakes. But our flow sort of forces us back to that river of destiny that is our life, is our own unique individual path. This has been my path. I made some mistakes along the way early on, as we all do. The ignorance of youth, the enthusiasm of life, the troubles that befall us, all contribute to mistakes that are made. But in the end, most of us, hopefully, figure out what our path was meant to be, get ourselves firmly on it, and do our best to be our best. For me, I tried to follow my flow, but there are times when I was forced down that river. There was high banks on either side, and I really had no choice. A lot of how I ended up where I'm at was without much real choice. Oh, sure, you can buck your flow. You can go against your feelings. You can just fight the universe that way and make other choices. But they're difficult. Wow. We started late, and now it's 4:19. I'm not going to delay the most important part of our lives, which is to take a break, take a breath, inhale some magical vapors, and try to reflect and refocus on what's important.
No, I'm good.
Boy, that's some good strong cannabis at the 420 moment, I'll tell you. I got some Dragon's Blood live rosin going on in there. I got some crystal diamonds going on in there. I got some old school honey oil going on in there. And the flower that's involved to make it a joint is probably about 50% of some pretty strong keef. I am smoking pretty good concentrates these days. It's what I need to do to inhale less carbon and continue to imbibe cannabinoids. Cannabinoids have become a big part of my life. Hi, Glenn.
Hi.
Come on in, it's 4:20.
Okay, thanks. Mind if I join you?
I said you were going to be here, but that was just moments ago. And now you're here already.
Yeah.
And it's 4:20, and I had all this stuff I wanted to say.
Well, you can keep going, because I'm just going to pull up the video here, because we're running a little bit behind time. I was running behind time, too.
We are. But now we're here.
There's a taxi cab and a truck.
I hope all you are here. The point that I'm trying to make is that by Canadian standards and today's screwed up world, the injustice of our society, I'm a criminal.
So am I.
So is Glenn, and most of my friends are criminals.
Ah, there they are.
But we're not criminals by the real definition of the word, because we wouldn't do that. I'm not here to hurt anybody. I never wanted to hurt anybody. When I took martial arts and boxing, and I got pretty proficient at hurting people that wanted to hurt me, I figured it out. I didn't really want to hurt anybody. Certainly didn't want anybody to hurt me, but the best way to avoid all that was just to be a nice guy. Don't steal from people. Don't try to make them feel bad. Just live a life of politeness and, minding your P's and Q's and minding your place in life and respecting other people. And you probably don't have to worry too much about people trying to hurt you, and you happen to hurt them back. But as a nice guy who didn't want to hurt people, I also figured out that I'm somebody who doesn't like bullies hurting innocent people.
No.
And so that shaped my life. It shaped my life as a teenager, and it shaped my life as an adult. It shaped my life in the choices of partners I made, my wife, how I raised my children, and how I viewed the world. When I quit my job almost 20 years ago now, I'd already been for several years involved in the cannabis legalization movement as a minor player. But about 20 years ago, I quit my job and went on a mission that was presented to me. When I started my inline skating tour of Canada in 2006, 2004 I quit my job and opened the Herb School. 2006 I started the Freedom Tour. It was a bold undertaking, but not really of my own doing. You see, I was surrounded by a bunch of people that had visions and missions and things that they were working on. I joined them because it was the right thing to do for me. And I found myself having had a vision, and that vision just manifesting in my life without me even really trying. I did try to follow my flow, and that was part of my flow, and it led me to the Freedom Tour. It had already led me to quitting my job and opening the Herb School with David Malmo Levine, Vancouver's second dispensary, a dispensary with non-medical access regulations to satisfy the recreational need, but no, to satisfy the need for not having doctors as gatekeepers, for human beings who would like to at least try this magical herb that's been mythical for thousands of years, involved in all these different cultures, and has so many amazing beneficial properties. That led me to the Freedom Tour in 2006. And I remember my mom called me as I've now left Vancouver. I've skated away from the legislature in Victoria, and I'm headed for Ottawa on a 5.5-month journey to meet the Prime Minister and educate the public all along the way about why prohibition is wrong and why our public servants are corrupt and why this prohibition of nature's most beneficial plant needs to stop. My mom called me. She said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Mom, I'm
coughing.
Mom, I'm going to Ottawa to meet the Prime Minister and educate people along the way about why the laws are wrong." She said, "No, what are you doing?" She said, You've worked your whole life to build yourself into a position where you have this great career as a carpenter and a supervisor and a restoration expert. A great job with great companies and a real good future right coming up with the Olympics coming to Vancouver and the construction wars that were going on with people scrambling for the best construction people they could find. And humbly speaking, I was going to be one of them. I was one of them, and I was going to cash in on that. I figured within 5 or 6 years, I could have built up enough of a fortune that I could retire. It was a good plan. But it all got put on hold. And when my mom asked me why, I only really had one answer for her. "Mom, you taught me to do the right thing. And I've been trying to figure out what the right thing to do is. And for me, this is the right thing to do. And I really don't have much choice."
Our parents teach us to tell the truth, and that's what you're doing. You're here telling the truth.
I'm here trying to tell the truth. Of course I am.
Right? Yep.
And all of that has led me to what I'm doing here.
Yep.
But in today's society, I'm a criminal.
And how you've inspired other people to do things too, like what we're wearing.
I'm sure I've got other people. I'm sure I've got other people arrested.
Yeah, arrested too. Yeah. I wasn't thinking of that, but because we're getting compliments.
I'm sure my inspiration has altered the course of other people's lives who had good things going on, a fortune just down the road, and a nice, easy lifestyle. But they just couldn't, and I just couldn't. And it has not been easy. for these 20 years or so since I quit my job.
No.
It hasn't been luxurious.
You took the low road.
No, I took the high road.
You think, well, okay.
I took the high road, but the high road,
maybe
the high road is fraught with a lot more poverty and hardship.
Yes.
Than the low road.
Yeah.
Where, you know, you don't care so much about right and wrong, maybe. I care about right and wrong so much that I couldn't take what I had learned and just sit with it. I couldn't. And here I am, 20 years later, operating a legal business for the last 4 years.
But making your mark.
7, if you count the first 3 years, which was not a business. It was just a project that I did as one of many projects, like the one going across Canada on the Freedom Tour, like the 420 rallies and the Cannabis Day rallies, like so many other things that I've done in an effort to try to accomplish the goals that I set 20-some years ago, my new goals. My original goal for years, at the start of every Daytimer book that I bought, you know, before January 1st every year, I would write, my goal is to add value to everyone I meet and every situation that I'm in. And that's still a goal of mine, for sure. But my goal changed in 2004 after reading The Emperor Wears No Clothes by Jack Hare, by solidifying the suspicions that I had had for the several years leading up to that about just how wrong this whole attempt to prohibit access to cannabis was. And I really had no choice but to quit my job and just put it out there to the universe. What can I do? How do we solve this? And I've been paying attention to that flow ever since. And it's led me to here.
Making our mark in history.
Well, making my mark in history, but...
history, anyway, it's just...
Sure.
Yeah.
But that's never been my goal.
Sticking up for patients.
I don't...
and these people...
I don't really care about that, and I don't... I mean, I care about fame because it's a tool that assists you in getting things done.
Yeah.
People will listen to you. You have a voice that carries some weight. So in that sense, I care about it. But I never wanted to be famous.
I don't think we get any fame being in the cannabis community, but we get the recognition. I would say more of recognition. Because we're not, Hollywood, right? We're not Juno Award, we're not Grammy Award stuff. That's a fame thing, right? So maybe we get recognition.
In this community, I have some fame,
you have some
recognition,
fame. Yeah,
whatever you want to call it, credibility. You know, because that's important if you're going to try to change things, that people will listen to you, and you get to put your opinion across. So that's what I've done. But where I also am here is facing charges brought on by a corrupt federal government and an even more corrupt federal crown for trying to help people. They want me to walk away. They've tried so many ways over these last number of years. It was in 2006 in Vernon, BC, where the RCMP beat me up as best they could, pepper sprayed me in both my eyes and my mouth, pinned me to the ground and tried to break my arm.
Wow.
To stop me from talking about truths and injustices. They've tried so much over these years. I was arrested in 2015 for trying to put on a Cannabis Day rally, where we used that day to speak about the state of our society here, and to tell the truth as best we can, to try to correct injustices. And for that, I had 15 VPD jump on me, nearly kill me, and throw me into a cell. 7 years ago, 7.5 years ago, almost, we had another overdose crisis going on in Vancouver, and this one was right across the country. Fentanyl had somehow found its way into the street drug supply. Very suspicious, that is. And people were dying at an alarming rate because they were taking a drug they weren't expecting that shuts down your lungs and your heart, and you die. You don't even know you're dying, you just die. It's probably a pretty peaceful death, I guess. You do some drugs, you sort of wig out, and you're gone. But most people aren't intending to die. And if you'd asked them before they took that drug if that's what they were trying to do, they'd say no. I just want to feel better. I still got a life to live. I still got things I want to do. There's people I love and care about that I don't want to leave. If you ask the families of these people, you'd find out that there was a lot of pain involved in losing a loved one. A lot of pain. This situation is horrible. And I had witnessed it before. When we opened the herb school, there was the China White overdose crisis going on in Vancouver. Remember that?
Mm-hmm. I do.
And what we learned at the herb school 20 years ago was that cannabis, in the form of edibles of substantial potency, can work to get people through withdrawal and off of those hard drugs. Most people didn't believe that right off the bat, I'll tell you. Cannabis for people using hard drugs? The hard drug users, they would be like, that stuff's nothing.
Yeah, I know.
That doesn't do nothing for me. Here, have a shot of this.
Yeah. And it was like that too.
But we're not talking about smoked cannabis. And that's what they were talking about. Mm-hmm. Because they didn't know about the potency of edibles, that it's ingested through a different system in your body that lasts for hours and can be increased and increased to the point of passing out, not dying. Excuse me.
Nope, nobody's ever died from greening out.
Yeah, that's right. Nobody's ever died of a toxic overdose of cannabis.
Never. Yeah.
So we learned that. I learned that at the herb school because of Lady Marijuana and her brownies and cakes. And our herb school was right at Wasting and Payne, half a block down from the #1 drug trading center in North America and the epicenter of the epidemic at the time. We didn't think we'd have people from the neighborhood on the hard drugs coming in to see us even, but they did. And they liked the brownies and the cakes. Mm-hmm. And it didn't take too long before we had people telling us that with a good strong brownie or two, they could get right through the night and not use those other drugs. And it wasn't too long after that that people were telling us they had used that to get off those drugs. And we heard over and over again that cannabis had saved my life. That's what people kept saying. Cannabis saved my life. That's what they believed.
Yeah. Cannabis has saved my life.
So when this overdose crisis hit, I felt that I was in a unique position with a voice that people would listen to and an understanding that cannabis edibles could really help in this overdose crisis. And I felt I had a duty and a responsibility to do something about that. I couldn't just stand by and do nothing about it. People were dying. So I did my best, which is what I was taught to do as a child, which I've been motivated all my life to be. Do your best. So I quickly started gathering up allies, people in the cannabis dispensary business that would support what it was that I had conceived to do. And what I conceived to do was simple. It wasn't a tough equation to figure out. It wasn't hard to figure out what the right thing to do was. Make it as easy as possible for people to get access to those cannabis edibles that can save their life. And so, buoyed by the support of some prominent cannabis activists and dispensaries, and with the support of Vandu, the local area network of drug users that advocate lives of these people that are afflicted with addiction and using hard drugs and oppressed by bad laws against them, I had all that in my hip pocket, and from there I went to City Hall and tried to get them on board. I held up a plastic bag of edibles and said, this is the real safe supply. We just need to make it easily available to people. And with the help of Van Du and my other friends, that's exactly what we're going to do. But Glenn's right. My fame doesn't extend very far past the cannabis community.
Yeah, and mine too.
But it's a huge community.
If we go to Hollywood, nobody would know who the hell we were.
They don't know who we are.
No, we'd be some two old guys.
Well, Snoop Dogg. Snoop Dogg might know.
Well, Tommy would know.
Tommy knows.
Tommy would know.
He knows what we're doing here. If you ask him about the CSP, I'm sure he'll tell you he knows about that.
We are known to that group, right?
But that's the cannabis community.
That is, right?
You know? But city council, some of the councillors knew who I was, and they'd heard me before up advocating for changes in laws and things, but my voice didn't carry very far with them.
You're only famous when you get a limo and a bodyguard and a chauffeur. then you can consider yourself to be famous, I guess.
I thought you were famous when people won't leave you alone.
Oh, that's true. Wow. I don't know. Some pretty good-looking guys are always bothered by women, so I don't know if they're famous.
That's their claim to fame.
That's their claim to fame, yeah.
That's their claim to fame.
Nice T-shirt. We're getting compliments on our T-shirts here.
Yeah, well.
Yes, hey.
Thanks to
Dan
Heisenherb.
Yep.
Who's been inspired by what I've done and decided he wanted to have a foundation in my name, and I gave him the blessing to do that. Oh dear.
Yep. Dan runs the Langley CSP, and if you would like a Magnuson Foundation T-shirt, reach out to the Langley CSP. They're on Facebook, and it's by donation. So you make a donation, and you can get a T-shirt just like Neo's.
Oh boy.
All right. See, I took over. So yeah, that's Langley Cannabis Substitution Project. Is the page, right? Yes,
I believe so.
Yeah. So just reach out on there, leave a message, and you can get a T-shirt. Oh, we'll show you what it says on the back. There you go. Am I in the back? Can you see it? You're on.
Yeah. Stand up a little bit.
Stand up. Okay. Good.
There we go.
I don't got eyes in the back of my head yet.
No, that's good.
That's good. All right. There you go.
That's what I believe. I believe that these poor souls that are struggling with addiction, living in poverty, and having lived miserable existences, their lives matter too. Just because they weren't born with a silver spoon in their mouth and all sorts of advantages doesn't mean they matter any less than anybody else. In fact, maybe they matter more. Maybe those people are special. They don't have it easy like everybody else. They have to work harder. They have to deal with much more adversity. Maybe that's a gift that they're given at birth. Because the rest of us might just care more about them than we do about each other. Because those poor individuals are disadvantaged.
Yeah.
I felt that. So, doing what's right, moment by moment, following the flow as the universe presents things to me that I need to make decisions on, my decisions have led me to here. And they led me to city council, and they led me to VPD to explain to them what we were going to do. And then it led me to doing the job, to going out and procuring an illegal amount of edibles and dispersing them illegally to people because it was the right thing to do. That evolved. Basically took on a life of its own. I had to make my decisions within that life that I was involved with, that had presented itself to me, that I was now on that path, because all of that was just the right thing to do. And it wouldn't have been easy for me to do anything differently. It wouldn't have been easy for me to not help, to have that information that here's how these poor souls can be saved, and to just sit on it. That wouldn't have been easy for me to do at all.
No. Shit, I even started doing videos just showing people that cannabis wasn't as bad as the government said it was. As soon as it became legal, I was on Facebook. I was like, okay, here it is. I'm going to do all this and show you that you can't overdose, and I can run a business and run a life and have decades of use. Right?
So, it was terrible what they were doing.
Yep.
It was terrible, and it affected so many people.
It ruined.
It affected most of the young people that I, when I was young. It's affected so many people in such bad ways. Most people that do what Glenn did, or do what I did, or do what other people do that are considered activists, they do it because of bad things that happen to them or their families. They also don't have much choice. When someone comes along or some group comes along and they hurt your family, pretty hard to not try and do something about that.
Yeah.
So a whole bunch of people did a whole bunch of things, little things here and there, everything they could. It was on their mind. It shaped their path. And I am right there with that.
And then you have people that go out and help other people.
Well, that's what we were all doing.
Yeah.
That's what everybody was doing.
Well,
if you're attacking these bad laws because bad things happen to you, you're doing it for other people too. That's the one heart of this cannabis community.
Yeah.
Is that we have all felt and witnessed the oppression of the governments and their bad laws and the corporations and their protection rackets for their patentable goods. We've all felt that. And it's shaped our lives. So here I am now, facing charges, facing a corrupt government that has almost unlimited resources to knock me down. And my goodness, they've been trying. Since I started this project 7 years ago, we've had the federal Health Canada Ministry, or whatever you want to call it, do their best to thwart our efforts. Tell us that we need to stop doing what we're doing until they provide us with licenses, and they're going to do that in a timely fashion, and they're on it. While they stall and delay and make excuses and just let time pass. 3 years they let time pass. The trick is that I didn't comply, because I can't comfortably comply with what they're asking me to do.
Yeah, let comply, let people die.
Yeah. Wow. Walk away and let people die is what they're saying.
Yeah.
Not in so many words, but that's the thing, and that's what I kept expressing to them. We're saving people's lives here. We've got all these people that thank us for helping them in profound ways. And you want me to stop and walk away from that until you figure out whether or not you can give me a license?
Which they didn't.
I don't know what world these people think I live in, but I don't live in their world. I don't conform to things that go against my ethics. I don't care who you are. Government, police officer, teacher, parent. It doesn't matter to me who you are, what badge you hold, what hat you wear, who your friends are, how much money you have. None of that matters to me with respect to me trying to do the right thing. And if I, in my heart of hearts, believe I'm doing the right thing, and I believe that whoever you are wrong in wanting me to stop doing that, I'm not going to stop. I don't care. You'll have to kill me or put me in a cage, especially with lives at risk. But even without that, my own integrity, my own independence, my own sovereignty, who I feel I am as a human being, would be under attack. And I would defend myself as best I could. And I have. So my message here in all of this, by now it should be 4:19. is that
4:17.
is that I will stand before the courts as a human being who in my own heart is righteous, As a human being who has spent some conscientious effort in trying to understand what the right thing to do is. Understanding that the government and the authorities, and even the priests, for God's sakes, and they weren't really for God's sake, all were telling me that I'm wrong. But that's not what I felt, and that's not what I understood. It's not what I knew. So I'm just a human being doing my best to do the right thing and not let people die. And not let people be harmed by bullies. That sort of became my self-imposed flow or rule or code that I lived by from high school on. I beat up the bullies in high school. That's who I fought. I didn't like it when they picked on smaller, vulnerable people. I took, martial arts and boxing and played hockey and all these things to fortify myself so that I could take on bullies, mostly. Maybe I should have been a cop in a real utopian, just, reasonable world where cops are peacekeepers and good people that you can trust and they enforce rational, just laws. My dad wanted to be a police officer. He came from a time when he believed that's what police officers were all about. Mm-hmm. I came to know differently.
Yes.
Wasn't too long into high school before I recognized who the real enemies were. Your government and the protection racket being run by law enforcement on their behalf. It's not a good way to be. Not a great place to find yourself.
Nope. Not at all.
You know, you want to live in a world that's just and reasonable. You're led to believe that's what's going on. You got smiley prime miscreants that speak the speak and tell you all these things are good and you just obey yourself and we know better than you and we'll have the rule of law instead of common law and just go along to get along or we'll make it tough on you. Well, damn it. I'm already explaining to you. I ain't that person. I ain't going along to get along when people are being harmed and death is happening. Or even my own sovereignty is under attack. I'm not going along to get along. I'm not happily living in a prison camp. I'm not happily living in a cell constructed for me without walls but with rules. I'm not happy about any of that. I don't mind rules if they make sense. I follow them when it's the right thing to do. But I also break them when that's the right thing to do because that's who I am. So I have numerous defenses to use in the courts coming up here. We might get to all of them. But the one that resonates the most with me is that I've had no choice here. Once I took those steps forward and began helping people, there's no way out of helping people for me. I'm not walking away from that just because somebody wants to make some money and I'm in their way. In fact, that's some of the worst reasons to try to get me to walk away from something like that. I don't like bullies, and I don't like people trying to bully other people to make money. So you're going to tell me that people can't have proper access to this fantastic herb, plant, gift of nature that has killed no one, like most other plants have, even though they're innocent too, but people didn't use them properly. But you can't use cannabis improperly enough to kill yourself. It's a miracle plant. Our bodies are rife with receptor sites for cannabinoids. We have a system inside of us that creates the identical molecules of the cannabis plant and some other plants that have cannabinoid molecules as well.
When activated.
What do you mean?
Well, you have to smoke in order for it to start doing.
No, that's THC.
Oh, okay.
That's THC.
So the cannabinoids.
The other cannabinoids, they're medical. You don't need to activate or
Okay. I thought you got cannabinoids from smoking
cannabis. I got the wrong word in my brain there, and I almost spit it out. But decarboxylate. You don't decarboxylate CBD. You don't decarboxylate CBN. You don't need to do those things. There are changes in those molecules as you heat them up. Some may become differently effective. Some may become less or more effective. It's a huge field of science, of which I am not a scientist, but I have an overview, layman's somewhat understanding of the complexities involved in all of that. In any case, we are part of nature, and cannabis is part of nature, and cannabis is definitely part of us.
Yep.
It's been a part of our cultures, our diets, and our life for millennia, way longer than we can ever understand. Because all of the vertebrates that have evolved along their paths as we have for billions of years, somewhere millennia ago, they were all consuming cannabinoids and the cannabis plant. And that's why all of the vertebrates have an endocannabinoid system just like us that creates the identical molecules to the molecules on the cannabis plant. To many of them, there's hundreds of them. But the CBN mimics a molecule that your body creates that helps you sleep. The THC, when decarboxylated, provides a molecule that's identical to molecules that give you like goosebumps when you're watching sunrises or the birth of your child or other things like that. The euphoria that we feel is created by molecules built in our bodies out of the diet that we have, primarily the essential fatty acids, which we're a little deficient in, to manufacture these molecules that do exactly what the molecules on the cannabis plant do for us.
Do we know all the cannabinoids, or are we still finding that out?
I don't know what they know anymore.
Really?
I'm not at the in the science rooms to know. I know that at one point there was a dozen, and then there was 60, and then there was 100, and then there was 140, and then there was 180, and now there's 200 or something.
Now they're still finding out.
So who knows? I don't know. All I know is
it works.
Is that this plant does not belong to the government.
No.
And they are way off base in spending my money and our money in hurting people to try to prevent them from getting access. And when you look at the history as to why they're really doing it, it was to protect industrialists.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Money. All about money. There is now, and was probably then too, a factor of control.
Mm-hmm.
It allows you to be better than somebody else. It allows you to punish somebody else. It allows you to kick somebody else out of your country. It allows you to prey on them.
It allows the government to tell you can't grow hemp, and then we get a carbon tax because our air is not as bad, right? So then our prime minister bullies us, says that we have to pay this carbon tax, and he got a raise for bullying us, right? He's up to $400,000 a year. I know. Fuck Trudeau. Right?
Fuck them all.
Yeah, that's what that bully did.
Fuck them all.
Right? So, yeah.
All these prime miscreants that we've had throughout my life and beyond have done nothing but serve the interests of the elite.
Yeah.
At the expense of all the rest of us.
And the planet.
And especially at the brutal expense of those less advantaged in their lives for whatever reason. This is horrible. And I won't stop until I die, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Because I don't think I get it done.
Yeah. Hopefully.
I think we're going to win the cannabis fight to some degree,
mm-hmm.
and force them to incorporate low barrier access into their legalization model.
And high dosage access too, because
that's low barrier. Yeah.
Okay.
When they put up a barrier of limiting the amount of potency, that's a barrier.
Okay.
All these things are barriers.
By having ID.
No, it's not about just cost or privileged
that's
state.
That's a barrier too, right?
That are all barriers.
Yeah, right.
There needs to be no barriers.
Yeah.
Somebody's good at growing and they grow some good cannabis and somebody comes along and wants some of it. There don't need to be any barrier there in them getting it.
So we should change it from
Sell it to them if you want. Give it to them if you want. Open a store if you want. Why wouldn't you be able to? It's a wonderful commodity that people want and it helps people. Oh, the reason you can't is because it's cutting into the profits of some greedy assholes who can patent their product, and they think it's okay to eliminate a valuable, wonderful part of nature out of everybody else's lives just so that they can supply you with their pharmaceutical synthetics or their alcohol or their tobacco or their sugar or their who knows what it is. I don't care what it is. You don't get to deny other people access to nature to protect your interests.
Yeah.
And if you do, it's wrong. And if a government supports that, it's wrong. We all know about dictatorships and kingdomships and pharaohs and kings and people that had their way with the masses of people with whatever their whims were throughout millennia of human history. We all know about that. We all know that democracy is a fairly new idea. I mean, there was some talk of some democracy a couple thousand years ago in Greece. But really, that wasn't for the masses. That was for the privileged. This concept of freedom and democracy is brand new in a multi-billion-year-old world full of evolving societies of how we treat each other and how we run our societies. It's pretty new. And it's only a small amount. When you look at the almost 200 countries in the world and you see how they're run and who's running them, there's not a lot of freedom and democracy out there in its true sense. Freedom to do or not do what you want to do or don't want to do unless you're harming somebody else. That should be the basic foundation of every individual's rights. And nobody, no group, other than maybe your guardians and parents when you're first born here until you reach the age of maturity. Other than that, nobody gets to bully you into doing stuff you don't want to do or stopping what you're doing if you're not hurting anybody. Nobody has that right. So when that's taking place, it's because the people doing that don't have the right to do it. They have the might to do it.
Yeah, like the COVID shot. They bullied us into that.
They threaten you.
Yeah. Oh, you're going to kill your grandma. Go get shot. Right?
They threaten you every which way they want. They lie to you. They skew science. We can't trust these people. We've never been able to trust them. So those people that we can't trust because of the masses of people and their angst against not being free, they gave them some lip service to freedom. They gave them an illusion of democracy. You can vote for your leaders. You can vote for your authorities.
They'll tell you what they want to hear, and then they'll change it once they're in office.
Of course. We know. Right? Everybody knows this.
Because they say what you want to hear.
Everybody knows this.
Yeah.
You can't trust your government. They don't work for you. They don't care about you, just the money that they can get off of you. And they care that you don't rock their boat. Because these people have had it going on for a long, long time. Generation after generation after generation of elites oppressing the masses so they can live in luxury and feel like they own everybody. We've been dealing with this for millennia. I keep using that word. It's the word of the day is millennia. Not Melania. That's somebody different.
Millennia.
Millennia is a long time. It's millions of years or something like that.
It's a million years. A millennium. Right. Yes. Millennia would be more, yes.
So one of my main defenses is hey, I actually found something. Maybe I can find it real quick here.
What was it?
It's a quote.
Okay.
There's lots of great quotes. There's a whole ton of really smart people over the course of history who've had a lot of good things to say about right and wrong. And This is by Martin Luther King.
Okay.
I don't know if he was famous or if he had any credibility.
Of course he was.
But what he had to say was this: never, and he repeated it, never be afraid to do what's right, especially if the well-being of a person or animal is at stake. Society's punishments are small compared to the wounds we inflict on our soul when we look the other way. Man, that resonates with me big time. Because that's where I find myself in this world. Now going before a judge, facing millions of dollars of oppression, bad laws, and a real bad tradition of having a government tell us what we can and cannot do in ways that aren't right. And I have to stand there and defend myself. And that's my defense. I have no choice. I will not turn and look away when people are being killed, when people are being harmed in serious ways, and I maybe can do something about it. I will not turn and look the other way or walk away from that. And to expect me to do that is cruel and unusual. It should not be foisted onto anybody. I shouldn't be having to make these decisions. We should have a top public servant with some authority and influence who is doing what his job is supposed to be, which is to protect the rights of the individuals within society, to protect the freedom that supposedly our forefathers have fought and died to get us this much of so far. A person like that should come and talk to me with an open mind and open ears and be able to understand that I have inside information. I'm not stupid. I'm not retarded. I have inside information. I've seen it firsthand. Cannabis can save a homeless, addicted person's life by giving them a sense of well-being, by preventing them from using drugs that will kill them, by putting them on a path to having a decent life. That's the truth. I know it is.
We see it.
We see it all the time.
Yep.
So
the drugs just keep them in that circle. But when you use cannabis, they break out of the circle. And
the governments keep them in these circles. Yeah. The government loves poverty because then they can say they're fighting against it.
Yeah.
They love homelessness and they love addiction because then they can say they're fighting against it. They can take millions of people's money that we've put in to pay taxes with and spend it on looking good for doing something while really doing nothing but maintaining it so they can keep looking good. And year after decade after century, they can stand in front of the masses and say, look what we're doing. Look at all the money we're spending to try to solve these problems. The police, with all their tax dollars and all their equipment, they can trot out a table full of drugs and money and have arrested suspects and there's guns there and all the rest of it. And it costs us a whole bunch of money to have that table full of stuff there and those people arrested. And it does nothing. It does nothing. You see it day after month after year after decade. They're still trotting out those tables full of stuff that they've seized, like as if it does something. You know, these gangs are so rich, and the amount of things that they have that are illegal are so abundant that the stories are that they would send entire shipments of illegal stuff to purposely get caught so that they can backdoor a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah.
They got more guns and money than the government has.
Yeah, they do that.
The government tells you they're doing something, but what they're really doing is the equivalent of standing underneath Niagara Falls with a teacup and catching some water and saying, hey, we're stopping the flow. No, they're not. What they're doing is they're continually escalating the price of those substances in the underground marketplace. They're continuing to escalate the amount of compensation that those people providing those substances are getting for doing that. All the gold and all the bling and the cars and the women and the penthouses and the house. Oh my God. They arrest a handful of people. We got them all. Oh no, you didn't. Oh no, you didn't. Because the demand is still there. So even if you got every single one of those people that had been currently breaking the law to provide those substances to the people that are demanding it, it wouldn't make much of a difference for very long at all. Because other people, desperate people, rebellious people, young people, would immediately fill those jobs. And that's what happens. They arrest a drug dealer on the corner here.
5 more.
Within an hour, there's 2 or 3 other drug dealers on that corner, and now they're going to have to do a little violence between them to see who gets it. They create violence and they create jobs. I'm very sorry. When they bust a poor user and they take away that which he just went and purchased from the drug dealer on the corner.
Now he has to steal more.
That user's going to go and rob somebody to get some more money to go and give it to the guy on the corner.
Yep.
The new guy or whatever. You know, I mean, they're doing nothing but spinning wheels that are chugging out money for the rich and the elite and allowing them to have control over people in ways that are... Bullying is a very big understatement. Mm-hmm. When you look at how these people are treated by our governments.
Someone's asking who owns your body, you or the government?
Yeah.
Right?
Who does own your body?
Right? Yeah.
Well, apparently when you're born, the government issues a birth certificate that is required by law.
Yep.
And there's a number on there that represents you.
Yep.
And the government takes out a loan based on a baby being born.
Yep.
To have money to use because that baby's going to grow up and be bullied into paying taxes.
You'll be paying taxes
and all that kind of stuff.
I think it's worth $100,000.
So I don't know who owns who. Who owns this piece of land?
Yeah.
Somebody came along and said they owned it.
Indigenous people do.
Well, the indigenous people were there before that. They didn't say they owned it.
No.
But they were there. They were using it. It wasn't anybody else's. How does it all of a sudden become somebody's? Probably mostly because they killed those indigenous people and chased them off.
Yeah.
That makes it theirs.
Put them in schools or
Is that right?
Yeah.
It's not right.
It's not right at all.
So if it's obtained through ways that aren't right, it doesn't make it yours. But you get enough people behind you, you get a system where your interests are being protected by a government who wants you to own that property so they can get taxes from you, and etc., etc. And now somebody owns this land.
And it wasn't the Queen and the King who made that law that takes over the lands, or that they want repealed now. I can't remember what the name of that thing is, but yeah.
Well, it was part of the British Empire.
Yeah, that they.
The Empire.
The indigenous people couldn't fight in court to get their lands back, but they're trying to get that law repealed so that they can now fight in court for it. I can't remember what it was, but I know that there's something about that.
No, we live in a really bad system here. We've had more gang violence here.
Oh, I know. I saw it just recently. Yeah.
2 people get out of a car in broad daylight in a major busy intersection and start firing bullets into the car in front of them.
Yep. You seen the guy run out the passenger side too.
So guess what the commentary was about that? As long as people are buying illegal cannabis, there's a lucrative market that these gangs are going to fight for. Yeah, right. I don't disagree with that.
But it's not the cannabis.
But the answer is not to continue the system and just try to somehow wipe out the illegal marketplace or people buying from that. The answer is what Trudeau said in the lead up to the election. He said, we're going to have legal cannabis in stores for people to purchase at prices that will undercut the unregulated market and put the gangs out of business. That would do it. That's what will do it. But trying to arm yourself enough with laws and guns and money that you could maybe force everybody to buy expensive weed through the government stores or not at all? That ain't never going to work. And they know it. It's just a bunch of rhetoric designed to keep the wheels spinning and the money being chugged out all the way along the path.
In that report, they also said that since cannabis was legal now, that the gangs are not so much interested in cannabis, but they're into the more of the fentanyl and harder drug stuff. So cocaine, fentanyl, meth, and all that kind of. So things are becoming more violent now because of this, right?
And it was always there.
Yeah.
And most of those gangs were involved in cannabis as well as these other things. And most of them still are, because legalization didn't do what Trudeau said it was going to do.
Exactly, yeah.
There was a time when most of the growers and suppliers sort of backed off, see what legalization does.
Yeah.
Legalization did not satisfy the needs of those that can't afford those high prices and the needs of those that need the higher doses of potency.
The medicals, yeah.
So there's a void to fill. There's a need, and now there's going to be a supply. That demand will cause a supply. So now many of the unregulated growers and suppliers are right back in full swing, doing what they were doing before, still illegal, still being chased down by the criminal law. The government's still using an even bigger hammer to try to wipe them out, all paid for by us. No, I concur. Get people to stop using the illegal marketplace, and then cannabis will not be the center of violence and illegal trade. And the way you do it is by you have low barrier access to cannabis in the stores and low barrier access to the stores for the suppliers and the producers. That's how you do it. So that's what we're fighting for. Oh man, I got so much on my paper here.
Okay, I'll go back to producing. You keep talking.
Oh no, you got to stay and help me out, man.
What do you want to talk about? The cannabis
when I'm doing my thing over here, which I'm very sorry about.
Well, don't worry about it.
It's what I have to do. It's
you've explained
the cards I've been dealt at this point in my life. Yeah. But that's that for that. What do I got here? Oh my God.
What about the cannabis report?
We're going to be back in court. Now, court is what I thought we'd be talking about today, because we had our preliminary hearing, sort of. And I say sort of because it didn't get concluded. It was scheduled for 3 days. And this is where the Crown gets to show that they have enough evidence to prove that I'm hurting people. No, that's not it. They have enough evidence to prove that I broke their stupid, unjust law.
Yeah.
That I was selling without a license. And our contention is they were criminally negligent in not providing such license. But that's going on. And it's continuing. And so the Crown, with their unlimited resources, is trotting out witnesses that got evidence against me, supposedly, although I didn't actually see any of that in court. There was really not much of anything against me personally. They didn't prove nothing yet. 2 of the 3 witnesses were sick on day 1. Mm-hmm. One of the witnesses for day 1 just couldn't make it. There was a funny comment by the Crown at the end of day 1 to my lawyer saying that she could make them sick for another day if that would suit his purposes. What does that mean? What is his purposes? My lawyer's purposes is to get me off of this charge, to protect my ass from the punishment that they want to deliver to me. That's not my purpose. That's his purpose. But I call the shots. I get to decide what we're doing here. So, day 2 comes along, and lo and behold, those 2 sick witnesses are still too sick to witness. The third one, the guy that couldn't make it the day before, though, he was there. So now we've had 3 witnesses by the Crown get up and give testimony. These are undercover officers. These are people who initiated purchases and gathered information on purchases and selling without a license. They were completely incompetent. completely incompetent. The Crown is incompetent.
Well,
2 of the 3 witnesses were complete rookies. They'd been on the job for 2 to 3 weeks at the most as a VPD officer. They didn't have a clue what they were doing.
The Crown's job is being made look that way because of the evidence, the crappy job that the cops did. The Crown isn't the one who went and did all the investigating, right? She's prepared. They're just giving them the information and she presents it, right?
Okay, the Crown's job is to investigate the investigators. It is to understand before moving forward with the charge whether there's enough evidence to convict.
Office, yeah.
So their job is to make sure the cops have their evidence right to begin with before they even start.
Yeah.
Certainly by the time 2 years has gone by, and they've been building their case against me ever since, huge amount of disclosure. Certainly by the time it gets into court, you'd think the prosecutor would have had her ducks in a row and made sure that these cops were going to give proper evidence. The 2 cops that were rookies, they had no clue about anything. They were shredded pretty quickly.
2 days.
The one cop was shredded by my lawyer because he didn't have a clue about most things. The second cop was shredded by the judge.
Yeah.
The second rookie cop, and that was on day 2. The judge started poking her questions into what the prosecutor was trying to get out of this cop, and she totally shredded that guy.
She did.
Jack had no questions for him.
No, he didn't even ask any questions.
Jack's like, "Oh, I'm good, Your Honor."
That's good, yeah.
I said, "Wow, Jack, she did a pretty good job of doing your job there."
Maybe she should get that.
I think we have a good judge, by the way. I think she doesn't know who we are.
No.
She's not from here. She doesn't know about the RV. She's never seen it. She doesn't know about the CSP. This was all news to her.
We got the luck of the Irish, as Jack said.
Yeah, Jack said all the other lawyers that work out of that courthouse are local, they're from here, and they all know me well.
And the judges. Yeah.
And they've probably all made up their minds long time ago about whether this rebellious lawbreaker is doing the right thing or not. So I'm pretty happy to have the judge that we have so far, for sure.
Yeah, she seems like a nice
And so there we are. The third witness that gave testimony, he had been a VPD for quite a while. He was an undercover cop doing drug busts for quite a while, but this is the first time that he's ever been involved with a cannabis raid.
Was that UC Paul? Yeah.
We won't talk about names.
Okay.
We will not talk about names. Oh. That is, by the way, a pseudonym.
Yes, that's why I said it, because it's not.
Yeah, but right? I'm not wanting to do anything.
All right.
Yeah, well, there's a publication ban on identifying these people because their lives would be at risk if the general population understood what kind of scummy work these people do. And here they are getting paid lots of money to be cowboys and go out there and find themselves some Indians and kick them off the land. So anyway, one of the other officers, I think it was the one that had never been involved in a cannabis raid, he was convinced this was West Cordova here. West Cordova's down a couple blocks that way. 2 full blocks down that way. He was questioned on it several times. He was adamant. He went and got his notes, and all through his notes, West Cordova. So, at the end of day 2, now I'll also mention that day 3 was supposed to be the next day. The prosecutor started out by saying, "I'm sorry, Your Honor, but these 2 officers that were sick yesterday, they're still sick today," wink nudge, and won't be coming in. But they feel confident that they can be here tomorrow, is what she said. The judge pretty much ignored that comment and said, "Oh, well, they've been sick for a couple days. We got Easter weekend coming up here. I'm sure we all want to spend a quality time with our families, and nobody wants to get sick, so let them stay home and recover."
Yeah, and get better. Which was a good.
So meanwhile, now I'll find another day where that officer can come in and give his testimony. Or those 2 officers, sorry.
Yeah.
Can come in and give their testimony.
Oh, that was a hassle.
And by the end of day 2, they couldn't do it. They couldn't find a date that suit the prosecutor, the judge, and the lawyer. They never even asked me. I'm available any day.
And the 2 officers, yeah.
And the 2 officers.
Yeah.
They just assume that I'm available any day. Nobody asked me. But they couldn't do it. So day 3 of the 3-day preliminary hearing, supposedly, was spent without me, with my lawyer and with the prosecutor, trying to figure out a day that would work for everybody, and they did it. So on June 17th, we'll be back in court for hopefully the finale of this case here. Well, it seems to me like they're trying their best to not carry through with this, that they don't want this to be brought into the courts. And for me, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
So I then have to have a consultation with my lawyer about getting an acquittal. He says it's a slam dunk at this point to put in an application 11B and have the charge thrown out. The prosecutor handed that to him. These witnesses handed that to him. And his job, it would be illegal for him not to do that apparently, is to present that to me, to have the charges thrown out.
Yeah.
Because as my legal counsel, that's what he's trying to do for me. But that's not what I'm trying to do here. I didn't spend all this money. And actually this enterprise for the last 4 years, plus some personal funds of mine, is what's funded this case so far. Unlike other cases, I haven't gone to the community for cash. I don't want to. I don't like that. I know there's those out there that benefit greatly from these court cases, and they're willing to contribute, and that's fine. And that's fine. But I'm not going to put it out there, have a GoFundMe, or appeal to the community to have, so many people that are struggling find a few dollars to send to me to pay the lawyer with. Not happy about that. I'm not doing that. But I didn't pay all this money. I didn't put all this work in. I haven't taken this journey this far to only get this far. I want my day in court. I think it's incredibly crucial that the evidence that we've compiled gets put before a judge. And I really think I've paid and worked hard to hear what a judge will have to say about it. Now, it might be corrupt. It might be that judge is on the other team, and we're going to get a bad ruling out of it. But I want it in black and white. I want the media to be able to report on it, whether it's mainstream or alternate media. I want it stated. I want to hear it. It deserves to see the light of day, be it corruption or be it the truth. So, that's where we're at. There's a good chance, apparently, that even without us applying for a dismissal, the judge acquits at the end of the preliminary hearing.
Yeah.
In which case, it looks like our charter challenge, scheduled for the 25th and into August of July, would be set aside. But at that point, we reset it. And we continue on with a charter challenge, but without charges pending against me.
Yeah, so you can continue to do the charter challenge. I was going to ask you that question. Yeah. So
I don't want charges dismissed against me on a technicality or on incompetent Crown and witnesses.
I think that would people do.
Yeah, I know.
Right? That's what we all hope for. That's what lawyers are paid for, to look for.
I get that.
The incompetence of the people who did the investigation, all right?
I don't want that ruling.
Well, I know.
That doesn't help me much. I don't believe they're going to punish me much anyway. That would be ludicrous. What they can do is they can stop me if they want. There's ways to do that. We're operating this business, selling without a license, in contravention of the laws, and in the raid and arrest that happened for 2 years since the raid. We're right there. We can see the courthouse from the RV. We can see the police station from the RV. It's half a block away.
They can see us.
They could raid me every day until we stop here.
But
they could make me go hide somewhere, and then they could chase me down and find me there, because it might be fairly easy to find me, because I'm going to keep helping these people until they put me in a cage. I don't think they're going to kill me, but they might put me in a cage for breaching my conditions or whatever it is. Yeah, being in the red zone or whatever it is.
They can zone you out. Yep. Say that you can't come in this area.
I made a promise to a bunch of people around here, and I made that promise to myself, that I'll do whatever I can to keep helping these people in the face of a corrupt government, whatever that takes, whatever that means, and we'll see where it goes. But I don't want to get off on a technicality. If they acquit me because of incompetent police officers, and I suspect they couldn't find competent police officers that day. I suspect that they had to put together a group of cops that were new to the job, who didn't understand what we're doing here, because most of the officers in this area, they appreciate us. They give me a nod and a smile. They'll come and ask me how it's going. They'll tell me to keep going.
Yeah.
So I suspect, like they did in 2015 at Cannabis Day, that they would find officers willing to do the job. Tough guys, bullies with their arms folded across their bulletproof vest with all their guns and equipment and their sunglasses and their attitudes. I'll bet you they'd go find some of those guys who just hate lawbreakers. It don't matter what. Or maybe they're just paid enough. Or maybe they're born without conscience. Or who knows what their deal is. But they're not your typical cop that thought he was getting into protecting people from bullies. They are bullies. And you bet police forces attract those people too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Definitely.
So I think if they let me off, that was bad. Sorry about that.
Yeah. All right.
If you didn't see the show where I explained what's going on with me medicinally, I have a tumor in my esophagus, and I'm not accepting traditional barbaric treatment. I'm using a bunch of other methods to try to make this thing go away. But one of the things my body is doing in response to it is creating a large amount of mucus. And it builds up, and I can't swallow it, and it goes into my mouth, and it affects how I talk, and eventually I will gag, and it's coming out. So I'm leaning over to get it out of my mouth so I can keep talking, and I'm very sorry. I understand just how terrible that all is. But in the name of wanting to get this information out, I feel it's important, and if I don't do it, I don't know that anybody else will.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep on doing this until the story comes to its conclusion, whatever that may be. Maybe in July.
If it needs to be concluded, I will carry on for you.
And that's why I wouldn't let you go earlier today. Because I need you to fill in and be a happy face while I'm trying to duck behind my artwork here.
But it is 5:30. So
I know, but I'm not done yet.
Okay, well, you keep talking. I was just worried about your voice.
We're going to have a little longer show. Well,
sure.
So be it. This is necessary.
All right.
But I'll try to be brief. We're going back to court on the 17th to hear the last witness's testimony. We're hoping we don't get an acquittal, but that it goes to the charter challenge. If it does get an acquittal, we'll still continue with the charter challenge until we get the government taken to task in court and get our evidence before a judge. That's the plan at this point. It might be considerably even more expensive if we have to do it that way. Already I've paid a lot of money to get us to where we are, and a little bit beyond this to cover those dates in July, or at least close to that. We'll see what the lawyer has to say about what's owed as we move forward, but I continue to give him what I can as I can. And I guess that's that for the court thing. I'll leave that alone.
Okay.
I want to mention that we got a great donation a few weeks ago from friends of mine on the island that is worth a mention for sure. Mm-hmm. They don't want any mention of it. I'm not going to name any names or say where it came from, but it was a wonderful donation to the CSP.
Nice.
And it has gone a long way. All 5 of the West Coast CSPs have benefited from that donation, and I know you know who you are and that you watch my show, and that I will see you again shortly here. But I thought it was worth a shout out because it has been so much appreciated. It has gone a long ways, and it's going to continue to go a long ways. We're not done yet. But like I say, all 5, and there are 5 West Coast CSPs. The East Coast CSP, the Ottawa CSP, we sent them a bunch of stuff anyway. At this point, they didn't get to benefit from that, but we do support the East Coast CSP, and I'm sure that our enhanced ability to be able to do that will be the result of that donation as well. So thank you so much, and thank you to all the other people that donate, and there are a lot of other people, and I should name them all, but most of these people don't want credit, and right now I don't have time or capacity to get into that, but I did want to mention that one. So we're less than 3 weeks away from the NHL playoffs.
Yeah, it starts the same day, right? And also,
and the Canucks are going to be in it, but that's not what I want to talk about.
I was going to say, shout out to Tommy Gunn. He made a really nice donation to the Langley CSP yesterday, a bunch of food.
Nice, yeah, I heard that too.
Yeah,
so there's so many people donating.
Tommy was watching tonight, so I just wanted to make sure that we give a shout out to him too, because that was very nice of him.
With 7 or 8 CSPs operating, you can just imagine that there's a large amount of people that are volunteering that are now part of our group in helping, and there's a lot of people that are donating and volunteering their time and baking and products. And this CSP works by donation only. That's how it works. It's all by donation, and nobody's getting paid. Work. Nobody gets paid anything.
No, human hours.
I don't know how Dan put these shirts together, but I suspected he did it out of his own pocket.
Yep.
All of us that are the principals in these CSPs are out of pocket to make it work. That's how it works.
And donations too.
Well, mostly donations.
Yeah.
Well, but I'm just saying that, you know, there's a whole bunch of people contributing and in many, many ways, and all extremely ethical human beings that, we're making sure that the money that comes in and the donation, and there's not much money on my end. I don't ask for money. You've never heard me ask for money for the CSP.
But there's hours and hours of making sandwiches and
stuff. Boy, there's a lot that goes into it for sure. We sell some of the donated products with understandings from the people that donate them, and that money, 100% of it, all goes back into procuring what needs to be procured. Some bakers we have to buy ingredients for, of course we do. Some bakers we have to provide cannabinoids to put into of course we do. And all of that stuff is looked after one way or another by a fabulous, fabulous group of people. So thank you all, everybody, for making it work to date and for keeping it going. And I'm sure the CSP, despite the government efforts and where this all ends up, has a brilliant future ahead in saving lives and educating people and in allowing people to have easy, reasonable access, low barrier access to cannabinoids. Just an aside on that, for those of you who think that I'm railing against the government stores or people that sell cannabis at high prices, or people and I'm not at all. There's expensive ways to produce cannabis, 100%. And that cannabis is in demand for sure. Those stores that would have high prices will have a customer base, 100%. Lots of people aren't even going to want to buy it if it's cheap. They're going to want to have the expensive stuff. They're going to want to brag about it. They're going to feel that. Even though with low barrier access, really good quality cannabis would be available at really reasonable prices, especially compared with what the government's charging now. But there's still lots of room to charge unreasonable prices to get a lot of money. And for those people, those growers that are putting a whole shit ton into what they're growing, they don't make as much money as you think they do, because that equipment is expensive, the labor is expensive, everything they're doing is expensive, the risk they're taking is expensive. So there's good justification for high prices, especially when there's still prohibition on the illegal cannabis. And so I do not have a problem at all, and I don't think it's ever going to or should go away, the stores that have cannabis for high prices to satisfy that demand. It'll always be there it's not going away because of low barrier access. My fight is not with those people. I support those people. I just don't support those people if they're advocating against low barrier access to good quality cannabis, because that needs to be part of the marketplace as well, and there's no reason why it can't be and shouldn't be. The government needs to get out of the cannabis business. And that brings me to the last thing that I want to cover here before I can put an end to the show today.
And that would be the cannabis review that the government was supposed to do.
You're a mind reader.
I am.
Or a note reader.
No, I know. Because
so tomorrow...
It's a segue.
Tomorrow at 8 o'clock Eastern Time, 5 o'clock Pacific, I will be taking part in a panel discussion with Jeffrey Lundstrom, with Jack Lloyd and Pat Warnicki and Kim Cooper. And we're going to give our thoughts about the Cannabis Act in view of this review, or because there's been a review. This review is evil. That's all I can say. There's a few highlights from it that I'll just touch base with right now. I hope you'll tune to Kim Cooper's Knock Network online program tomorrow.
You're gonna be here?
Yeah, I'll be here taking part in a video Zoom thing.
Yeah.
They think they need a youth advisory board. I have a feeling that my youth advisory board would be different than theirs. Probably a bunch of do-gooders and nannies and people that have no clue, who've never used cannabis, who believe a lot of the bullshit about developing brains or problems in society with cannabis and all that kind of stuff. And they're just going to be there to try to advise how to protect the youth from cannabis instead of figuring out how to make it available to young people in ways that make sense.
Yeah.
Especially those people with medical issues, especially those young people with epilepsy, and there's a large amount of other young people that are having a hell of a time getting access to what medicine could really help them because of these stupid laws and all these restrictions being put on the availability of cannabis. So that's a red herring and a red flag right there. Another one would be they want to have a tax policy
Yes.
to deter higher potencies being available on the black market, or I don't mean to use that word.
The gray market.
I call it the gray market, the green market, the unregulated or underground market.
The real market, because that's
the real market.
Yeah.
They think that they can just impose even higher taxes on people to dissuade them from going to the unregulated marketplace for high potency cannabis. They just don't think there should be high potency cannabis. That there's no real need for that. That it's dangerous somehow. Where's the youth advisory board on hard alcohol? Or on whether or not there should be potent alcohol? Potent alcohol stops people from drowning themselves in beer, by the way. Sometimes all you need is a little shot.
Yeah. 100 proof.
There was a time when the government only allowed beer and wine. And then they made it illegal for a while. And that's when we got the hard stuff and the more potent stuff, because that's a better way to use it. It's a more efficient way to use it. I'm not talking about the people that get addicted to alcohol and misuse the potent alcohol. There's ways to use alcohol in ways that don't hurt you and don't hurt others. And high potency alcohol needs to be part of that equation. Well, so does high potency cannabis need to be part of the equation. You don't need to figure out how to stop people from getting access to it. You need to give people access to it in ways that make sense. If there's danger there, then regulations that address that are what's needed. Some type of warning about the ability to green out. Those sorts of things make sense. But the criminal law doesn't need to be evoked. We don't need harsh penalties. We just need people to have a little bit of forewarning about the potentials. Nobody's trying to hurt themselves. Nobody's trying to live a life of misery behind a dumpster, shooting needles in their arms.
Nobody wants that. It's just what happens if you're not educated properly to begin with. Most people, if properly educated, if given all the facts, will make better choices for themselves. So far, that's not the world we're living in, and it looks like the cannabis people, in charge of our legalization model, they don't want that world either.
So how? Yeah.
They want new regulations to stop the availability of cannabis through the unregulated marketplace. They want standardized unit doses to be available in stores and online through licensed legal people, but everybody else gets wiped out. They want harsher clampdowns on people that would dare to use the internet to provide access to people. They want to shut that off. They want the 10 milligram of edible potency maintained. Mm-hmm. I said they want to block illegal online sales.
Yeah. They want the site people to block that them. I think that the wording was right. They want the Meta people and Google people to stop them from doing
exactly.
That. Yes.
And they're going to try to make sure that they do, but those are powerful people.
Yeah, I don't think those.
I don't know how much success they'll have, but they're wasting our tax dollars to do it. And if they're successful, they're seizing bank accounts. They're ruining people's lives. They're interfering with businesses that people are doing.
You can buy your own server. You don't need their servers, right? So you can, if you've got enough money, you can just do it yourself nowadays. So
they want to maintain the medical access program. So they want to keep doctors as gatekeepers, although they want to add pharmacists as gatekeepers.
I know, it's not that too, yeah.
We don't need no bloody gatekeepers. Yeah. We certainly don't need the corrupt medical industrial complex to be the gatekeepers for what we do for ourselves medicinally. Those people can't be trusted. Are you kidding me?
Mary Jane says, what about what we want?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. I don't care what they say. We know we can't trust them. They are second on the rung to politicians with respect to believing what they say. You can't trust your doctor. He doesn't know, for one thing. They don't care, so they don't look into it. They don't want to know about natural food products. They don't want to know about nutrition. They want to know what you think is wrong with you so they can tell you what drug to take that makes them money and the pharmaceutical companies money. We can't trust them. I'm sorry.
There are some good doctors.
Oh, of course. And there's some good cops.
I have a good doctor.
And there's some good priests.
Yeah.
And there's some good politicians.
Yeah.
That doesn't make it any better, apparently. There's still a whole bunch of corrupt ones.
But it's a start.
And if you thought you could trust your doctor, I'm very sorry to be the one to tell you that you better take what they say with a grain of salt or two. You better think about what it is they're prescribing to you. You should read the ingredients. You should go online. You should look at the side effects. You should figure out why your doctor's motivated to give you that particular type of medicine instead of some of the stuff that a naturopath might give you or a homeopath might give you or that your mother might give you. Medicine has been hijacked. The governments have been hijacked. All of it by greedy corporate elite that are simply the kings and pharaohs and tyrants of the present and past, reinventing themselves into public servants that are not there to serve the public at all. It's an oxymoron. It is criminal hypocrisy to say that they are. It's all messed up. So, I don't have much left.
Yeah,
I don't have much time left. I don't have much voice left.
All right.
I'm sure you guys don't have much more tolerance of me rambling on left.
We'll be back next week.
We'll be back next week.
420 is coming up.
The weather's beautiful. Oh, yeah, that's right, too.
That's 420.
I got one more thing to talk about.
I know, that's why I reminded you. But I'm going to turn the camera on you, and I'm going to go for
April 20th is coming, and that's not just important because the National Hockey League playoffs are happening and the Vancouver Canucks are in them.
Yep.
Although that's a milestone, and that's worth some importance in some people's lives. If you've been a diehard fan all your life, which I am no more, but I used to be, and I relate to those people, and I will still cry like a schoolgirl who lost her ring if the Canucks win the Stanley Cup ever in my lifetime. Oh my goodness! But I gave up on that. I am not hoping for that. I don't believe that. I will not be surprised when they don't go far in the playoffs or at least win the Cup. I'll take it if they do. I'll be thrilled if they do. I ain't saying that they can't. I'm just saying I don't believe it. I'm not buying into it. I'm not going to allow myself to be hurt like that. It's been 50 plus years that I endured all of that. But it's fun anyway. But you know, the other thing that's fun when the playoffs start is 420. 420 has been fun for a while. The date where we all get together en masse to protest these laws. We were doing that for quite a long time before the pandemic hit. We had built it into quite the thing. I'd be interested to know where it would be now if we hadn't lost those years.
It would be nice if the Canucks start on 420, because then the cops will be busy at the game and not be bothered by us, because they'll have a lot of cops down there.
Yeah, that won't be till 7 o'clock at night.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Sorry to shoot you down, Glenn. I mean, I wish it were true.
Yeah.
But no, the cops won't be busy worrying about the Canucks hockey game on April 20th, if there is such a thing. Apparently, the cops here in Vancouver are going to be worried, beside themselves worried, about 420. They have sent out cease and desist orders to some people. They didn't give me one. They probably know that's a waste of time. But it certainly got back to me pretty quick that that's what's going on. That they say that they are going to be monitoring activities at the beach, at the art gallery, and other locations. I wonder how many man hours that's going to take, how much tax dollars that's going to take. And this is because of a couple of aligned forces. An extremely corrupt federal government with their Cannabis Act, and a CSU provincially that is evil and supporting that and actively working to thwart any efforts to protest it, and a city hall in Vancouver with an evil, corrupt piece of shit mayor who's all gung-ho to support alcohol and the legal marketplace that they're making a bunch of money on, and denying people the right to even protest against what they're doing. So we're going to have ourselves a 420 this year. We don't know what shape that's going to take. We don't know if they're going to be where we are, and we don't know what they're going to do. We have plans to be flexible, to be observant, and to use everything they try to use against us, against them. You can bet our cameras will be rolling. You can bet we're not just going to whimper away and decide, oh, well, I guess we can't have our protest anymore. This is war, folks. Vancouver seems to be the battlefield. So whatever's going to happen on 420 should be fun. Probably even despite how much force they intend to use on us. We'll meet them. We'll meet power with power. We won't go away easy. We won't go away without making a fuss. And we'll have ourselves a protest. Maybe the media will be there. If they're going to show that kind of force and try to stop us, maybe some of the media will be there. We'll have our media there. Maybe some of the more prominent alternate media will be there. Maybe some of the corrupt but still, who knows what to call. I don't know. There's lots of different possibilities for the mainstream media. So far, they've proven to be allies of the government and corruption, and not the ordinary people and the truth. But we'll see. So, come to Vancouver. Keep your ear to the ground. We'll try to let everybody know without letting the mayor know what's going on.
Oh, Mayor's got his people, I'm sure. They always, they always do.
I got a really bad catch in my throat at this point.
Okay.
It's not going to allow me to say much more.
All right.
Go forward with peace and with the truth and love in your heart. Be kind to all the people you meet. Do constant acts of kindness. Do what you can to make the world a better place, because we really need everybody to do that. Live the best life you can. Be the best you that you can be. Do whatever you can do to your best abilities. Realize that life is extremely valuable, extremely fragile, way too short, and way too serious to take too serious. I'll do my best to see you next week. Have as much fun as you can till then.